and then we'll get started in a second here, once everyone has had a chance to fill out the poll here. Okay, great. Looks like almost everyone's had a chance to put in their, okay, great. So I'm going to go ahead and get us started here. It looks like we've got about a third high school students on the webinar and a third tribal ed Title VII educators, and then a third other folks who are joining us today. So excited you could make it. This presentation will be available online afterwards. We'll send out a link when we finish so that you can review any points on your own time. If for some reason you have any issues, please message me in the chat box on the right side of the screen. The GoToWebinar control panel should be there, and I'll try to address any issues as they come up. First of all, I'm Hilary Abe. I'm Coordinator of Recruitment and Alumni Affairs for College Horizons. If you have any questions during the webinar, please go ahead and submit them in the question pane on the right. But after the webinar, you can feel free to contact me directly, either at my email address or my phone number. They're included on this cover slide here. So I welcome you to reach out if you have any other questions after this presentation. I'm going to go ahead and fly through some of this information because there's a lot to go over in the next 30 minutes, and I want to leave time for questions. So I'll just go ahead and get started, but this is what we'll be covering today. What is College Horizons? How do I apply for College Horizons as a student? And any questions that you might have, we'll save them for the end. I'll try to answer most of them during this live presentation, and if there are any left over, I'll be sure to email you afterwards or call you. Again, the best ways to participate on this webinar today are to either chat me in the chat box or ask questions. You're in mute-only mode as participants, so nobody else can hear you. You're just going to be able to hear me during this presentation. So what is College Horizons? We are a nonprofit, a 501c3 nonprofit, and we're a national organization whose mission is really to help facilitate the education of Native students and youth. So we do that by offering summer workshops primarily. We work with students in the summer, and we basically pool together our partner institutions and faculty that have served with our program, and we put together these workshops for Native youth. So in that vein, we offer 2 workshops. One is College Horizons, what you're here to hear about on this webinar. That's for our high school students, sophomores and juniors. And then Graduate Horizons. This is our program that's held only every 2 years, and this is for college students and college graduates who are looking to apply to graduate and professional degree programs. So really, with both these programs, we're trying to clarify the admissions process for students who are looking to obtain degrees. So just a little bit about the college going process. When we're thinking about applying to schools, when students are thinking about applying to schools, we have a lot of questions that we're looking at as we look at these schools. You know, how do I pick a school, first of all, that I want to apply to? How can my family and I pay for college? What is the process behind that? What should I do to be a prepared student for college? How can I strengthen myself as a student before getting to college, and what can I do before I arrive to college in the summer, perhaps, to be ready? Where can I be competitive? Which schools are going to look at me as an applicant, and which schools am I going to be suited for as an applicant to apply and know that I'll either be admitted, or maybe I'll be likely admitted, or maybe it's a reach school that I'm applying to as well. So there's a number of questions as we look at the application process and the admissions process. Especially as Native students, we need to be, I think, deliberate about what schools we're thinking about, because certain schools may have awesome programs for Native students. They might have special support programs for Native students. And these schools are actually located all over the country. So if that's something that interests you, we are looking at those questions at our programs, and then we are helping you to find out information that you can use in the admissions process to become a kind of a really a savvy or an intelligent applicant, and you're choosing schools that are going to be supporting you throughout all 4 years of your college degree program. So really helping students consider and understand the multiple factors in selecting and applying to colleges is our goal. So along with that, the college application process itself has a number of components. So on the admission side, admissions counselors are looking to you to provide some basic information for them so that they can see whether or not you're going to be a good fit for their campus community in the end. And those components that you're going to be submitting to college as a student are things like the application form, which contains your basic information, your name, your address, your high school, how they can reach you, your email address. It's going to contain several pieces of information that they're going to want to have from you as an applicant. You might have to be paying some fees in order to apply. So application fees are part of this process for many schools. You have to provide your transcripts and GPA for the vast majority of institutions. And then certain schools have academic requirements. In fact, most schools do have academic requirements as part of their admissions process. Extracurricular activities, excuse me, extracurricular activities are going to be an important thing to list out, to provide to schools so that they can know what you're doing in the time that you're not in class. And then, of course, teacher recommendations, a counselor recommendation. Those are going to provide further context for the schools to understand how you're doing in classes and how you are as a student at your school. Last but not least, a personal essay and short answer questions are usually part of that process. So you get a chance to tell your story and explain a little bit about yourself and who you are. So that's a chance for you to really showcase maybe your writing skills, maybe your thinking skills, and give some information about yourself that wouldn't normally appear on the rest of the application. So that's a really awesome opportunity for Native students in particular, because we as Native people can come from unique communities with unique values when compared to the larger and broader population of the United States. And then, of course, we have test scores. So many schools require test scores. Some schools are either test flexible or don't require tests, so that's important to know, but the majority of schools do require either an SAT or an ACT test score. And then some even require the SAT 2 subject test. That's a smaller number, but something to be aware of. And then, of course, the financial aid process requires some information from the student as well. So when you're being considered for financial aid, there's a form called the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, or the FAFSA. Many schools require that, and so if you're a student applying for financial aid, that's going to be a very, very crucial document for you to be able to fill out with your parents. So this is a lot of information that students are expected to provide, and it's usually all coming in the senior year of high school, which is also a very busy year. So what we like to do with our program is really help you to put together 90% of that information in the summer and have that ready to go so that you can just fine-tune it in your senior fall. Students come both in their as a rising junior or as a rising senior. So for those students who are a little bit younger and may not be entering their senior year when they attend after they attend the program, it's still really, really valuable because they have a roadmap. Let me describe a little bit about these summer workshops, because there's a lot that happens, and as you saw, we kind of cover a range of different topics. So the programs are 6 days in the summer, and during the program, you research and select, with the help of faculty, 10 colleges to apply to. We edit and really polish the Common App that you would theoretically be submitting. And the Common Application is an application form that's actually accepted at I think over 400 or 500 different schools. So that is it's an application that you can use to actually apply to a variety of schools. Of course, I mentioned the essay, and that's something that we really revise and hone at the program, so students have the opportunity to work one-on-one with experts who know and who can really provide excellent feedback on those essays. You receive test-taking strategies, so we have a test prep expert who comes to the program and lays out a really clear study plan for getting the best SAT or ACT score that you can. And then we also learn about the various components of financial aid, as I mentioned, the FAFSA, but also how to read financial aid award letters, how to calculate your family's expected family contribution. That's an important number because it gives you a general sense of what your family might be expected to pay in a given year for your college education. And that's something that I think a lot of families tend to be surprised by, or don't get that information ahead of time before applying to college or being admitted to college and then having to pay. So it's good to plan for that, and it's good for you as a student to understand, how that factors into your financial aid package. And then, of course, look at scholarships, look at what's available out there and how to go about searching the thousands of scholarships that are out there for students, and then for Native students in particular, there are a number of scholarships. So we also attend a campus tour and a college fair. There are a number of informational sessions from all our partner schools, which we have over 40 college partners that come to our program and work with you as students. And then we also really do take a good look at what challenges you may face as a Native student in college and how you can meet those challenges and really overcome them. And then, of course, you're going to get to meet and connect with 100 Native youth from around the country. So at each of our programs, we bring about 100 Native youth to a campus, and they're there the entire 6 days of the program. We're living there in the dorms, eating our meals in the dining halls, experiencing classrooms and the spaces on campus, the athletic facilities, and really getting to know each other very well. So it's a blast. It sounds like a lot of work, which it is, but it's also a lot of fun. And of course, I should mention the relationships you build with college admissions officers and counselors who come to our program. Our faculty is just, it can't be overstated just how much our faculty, I think, love working with you as students, and you get to know some pretty amazing people in the process. And those people are able to give you incredible feedback and advice about college, because they've been there, they've gone through it, and now they're on the other side, and love helping the students that come to our program. So some important achievements of our organization that we're very proud of. Over 3,500 students have attended College Horizons. So you'd be joining kind of an alumni network that is quite large at this point. And then over 860 of our students have attended Graduate Horizons as well. So those students that come to College Horizons, we're really encouraging them to attend our Grad Horizons program when they're looking for those advanced degrees. Acceptance to college. Every year, 99% of our alumni go on to college, and then typically 85% of all our alumni graduate in 4 to 5 years. About 95% of our students go to four-year institutions, and then a third of those students usually go to very selective institutions, which are schools that accept 50% or fewer of the students that apply. So this is a good snapshot, this slide that I'm on right now. It's kind of gives an idea of who comes to our program. So just so you know, there's over 560 tribal nations, I believe. And we get a good number of students applying from such a diverse smattering of those nations every year. So this last year, in 2016, when we were hosted at Amherst College and Lawrence University, we had 64 tribal nations represented among the students. We had 117 different high schools. We had students from 26 different states. And then, of course, 36% were juniors, rising juniors who came to the program, and 64% were rising seniors. Our breakdown at the program is generally around this, but we had 33% male students and then 67% female students represented on campus. And that typically is representative of the diversity of students we get from each year to year. So I should mention some more perks about this program, because I think we designed it so that it's easy for you to come and access us. It's only 6 days during the summer. I know a lot of Native students do have a lot of activities in the summer, either cultural activities or school-related or extracurricular related. So it's short because we want you to be able to participate in all those other enrichment opportunities too. I mentioned, but it's a unique experience to be able to be in a college environment. This year we're going to be hosted by Princeton University and Whitman College in Washington State, and Princeton's in New Jersey. These are kind of unique campuses to experience for a week. So you get a sense of a campus that is likely to be far away from your home. You get a feel for what it's like to be in a different part of the country. That's important to be able to compare schools that you might go to by visiting at least one is a great opportunity. So just getting that chance to see what a campus is like, it's exciting. So understand the application process before the busiest year in school or your busiest years in school. Make friends with a lot of similar goals and passions. And then, of course, we mentioned the relationships you build with admissions counselors from these amazing institutions. And as I mentioned, Princeton University will be hosting us. That's the dates are June 16th through 23rd in 2017. And then Whitman College, Walla Walla, Washington, July 7th through 14th, 2017. Two different sets of dates, so that if you have a conflict with one, it's possible you're going to be able to attend the other. We really try to accommodate students when they have a good reason that they're not going to be able to make one program. So that really covers the basics of College Horizons as far as we'll go into. There is more information on our website, but we wanted to give some time to explaining the application process to College Horizons. So how do you apply to College Horizons? You can visit our website. The apply button is right on the front page, so you can go ahead and click on that. Many of you may have already downloaded the application, but you can always re-download it from that same page that you filled out and registered for an application originally. So our eligibility for this program, each student must be American Indian, Alaska Native, or Native Hawaiian, and provide the appropriate tribal or ancestry documentation. So we need copies of relevant tribal enrollment forms, either from a state or federally recognized tribe, or as verified in Hawaiian ancestry documentation from the Kamehameha schools or Ho'olu Hawaiian Data Center. So that's one of our eligibility requirements. The next two are either be in 10th grade right now or 11th grade. as a high school student applying to our program. So unfortunately, seniors, if there are any on the call right now, we've missed the opportunity to work for you, since you'd be applying to colleges now and theoretically, getting acceptance letters before the summer of this program. So that's why we unfortunately aren't able to work with seniors. The last requirement we have is that students have a 3.0 grade average in core academic courses. So that means things like English, science, math, language, not electives, not PE or those other electives like maybe arts. We're really looking at those core academic courses because those are going to be very important to colleges. And then lastly, it's important that you're either a current or permanent resident of the U.S. because these schools need you to be a resident in order to give you the financial aid packages that we're going to be preparing you to receive or to apply for. And then unfortunately, no CH alum can apply this year because we have limited space. In future years, we may revisit this, but unfortunately, we just won't have enough space at our programs this year to accommodate returners. So unfortunately, that's the case. And then cost of attendance. So the total cost of this program is $450. That includes everything when you hit the ground from the airport. So we pick you up to the program. We provide you transportation to the program. We are able to fulfill our tuition requirements with that fee, rooms, meals, ground transportation, all of that, and then of course materials that we provide are also covered by that. It is actually a lot more, so we subsidize it heavily, the cost of the program for each student. It would be probably around over $2,000 if we weren't able to. So that we really try to make it as affordable as possible while being able to hold our program every year. Students are responsible for their own transportation to the host campus, but luckily there is financial aid that we're also able to provide for students who qualify to be able to help with the cost of either a plane ticket to the host campus, and it's possible to make other arrangements, but usually it's assistance with the flight to the host campus. So as I said, scholarships are automatically allocated every year. About half of our students or more receive travel assistance each year and tuition assistance, or one or the other. And then what's great is that when you apply to College Horizons, the financial aid, applying for financial aid is automatically a part of the process. So because we're working with students to provide FAFSA information and your expected family contribution for financial aid purposes too, we see your financial information, and so we're able to automatically allocate financial aid based on your family's income to make it a more affordable program for you if you require, or if you qualify and are admitted to the program. So just a note as well, if a student receives a travel scholarship and decides to drop out after we've already purchased a ticket for them, the student's family will have to cover that cancellation fee and ticket cost. So just so you know, if you do get admitted and choose to come to the program, just be sure that you've made it possible that you can attend and before you buy your ticket, so that you're not out that cost. Okay, some quick tips for when you're actually applying to the program. In all your forms that you submit to us, please make sure that your email address is accurate, because that's going to be one of the primary ways we communicate with you, including your admission decision and any future information after that. So fill out all information on the application form as accurately as possible. And we do want you to know that incomplete applications, so if you're missing a component or two from the application and we don't receive those components at the deadline, it'll just be considered late. so we won't be able to read it at that point. So you wanna submit everything on time. Additionally, mail everything everything that we're requiring in the application in one packet, and then put it in the mail. That ensures that we won't lose anything because it's all in one packet. So that's easiest for us if you submit your application in one folder. Keep a copy of the application for your records just in case. It's rare, but in the circumstance that it becomes lost in the mail, you can always provide us a copy of your application, and we won't penalize you for that at all. And then you can always contact us before the deadline, of course, via phone or email. If you have any questions, we encourage you to reach out if you have specific questions about the application. We've tried to be pretty thorough in our instructions. There's a couple pages at the front that really describes everything that we want to see from you, and there's even a checklist to help you compile everything. But just so you know, we're always available to answer your questions. And then something that's useful for you to know as well is that our application really mirrors the college application. So there's all the things that I kind of talked about at the beginning. Many of them we're also requesting from you, and that also, I guess, familiarizes the student with what it will be like to apply to college as well. So that's a good practice. And then, what types of students are we looking for at our program? And as I mentioned before, it's such a diverse cohort that we bring to our programs, so there's going to be a lot of different things that we're looking for. And our selection process helps us to choose the students that will be coming to our program. First of all, it's comprehensive and objective, which means that we're going to be looking at all the things you submit. So academic achievement is something that's very important. Letters of recommendation, which describe what kind of student you are, what kind of person you are. Any hardships you've gone through, any involvement that you might have in your native community or your home community, your attendance, we look at that. We look at your extracurricular activities, your community involvement, and then your diversity, what experiences make you a unique applicant, your tribal nation, but really most importantly, from all these details, we're trying to just get a sense of who you are, your story, or your family, your ohana, where you come from. So that's something that I hope is clear, is that we're not looking at any one thing and saying, oh, that's too bad, this student isn't made for our program. No, we're really looking at what type of person you are and how you do in your academic work, so that we can hopefully bring you to the program and then work with you some more, so that you can have some options and some more information from our program when applying to college. So College Horizons, the reason we have to go through this selection process is because we have a limited number of spots, and that makes this a competitive program. So last year we received over 300 applications for just 200 seats. And that's what makes it difficult, because there were so many amazing students that applied. And luckily we're able to provide admission to most students who applied last year. But it can be competitive, and in any given year, that number of applicants might go up, it might go down. It sometimes fluctuates, but it usually stays around a similar point. So if you meet our eligibility requirements and you're submitting an application to our program, I just suggest that you work on your application. You try to make it speak to who you are, and that way we see that effort when you apply to the program, and that makes a big difference for us. So I think that's something that I can suggest to you. Then deadline specific. Students who apply on time are reviewed before and receive priority over late applicants. So usually we are able to read late applications, but they do take kind of a back seat in the process to students who apply on time. And that's because college applications When you're applying to schools, you have to apply by the deadline, and it can often mean that if you miss important deadlines, it might be that you've missed out on applying to a specific school. So we try to reinforce that within our own application process. This year, there will be 200 slots as well. So because we have 2 programs and we take 100 students at each, there will be room for 200 students this year as well. The deadline, this year's program is coming up in February. So February 14th, 2017 is our deadline. That is the deadline when applications must be postmarked. So that's the day you want to definitely put it in the mail by. As long as it's postmarked by that date, we will consider it on time. It doesn't matter if it takes a week for our Native Hawaiian students for the application to make it to our office, or if it's a couple days in the lower 48. We're going to consider you on time if we see the postmark by February 14th. Other important dates: once you submit the application, we're going to take some time and review all of them. We have to process all of them, we have to enter them into our database, and we have to read the applications themselves. So it takes some time, and we appreciate your patience. Usually we're able to mail out decision letters by early March or mid-March. And then by mid-March, we're asking students, or late March, to confirm whether or not you're going to attend the program and then pay the balance of tuition. That secures your seat to our program. Around mid-April, we're having students purchase airline tickets. That's the deadline to purchase airline tickets to the program. And then also by, I think, mid-April, we have a deadline to withdraw. So students can withdraw up until that deadline without losing their deposit. Okay, tips for students. These are some important things that we want to pass along to you in your application. So students need to complete the application, not the parent. If the parent does, we will have to send the application back. This rarely happens, but again, we've had a couple cases where I think it's clear that the student did not complete the application, so we've had to ask a student to resubmit using their own words. We also really strongly suggest that you use the short answer and essay questions thoughtfully. So please write thoughtful responses back to us. Those are some really important pieces of our application and the college application too. Spend a good amount of time on the application. If you could start this coming week or the week after winter break, this is a perfect time to actually just spend an hour or two each day on the application, filling out the form, emailing out to your teachers and asking them for a recommendation. It's really the ideal time so that you're not so stressed out about it or trying to complete it at the last minute. Get a friend or a teacher or your parent to proofread your application before you submit it. That is a really good way of eliminating errors and of getting a sense of how your reader is looking at this information, so that you can be sure you're putting your best application forward. And then don't wait until the deadline in February to submit it if you don't have to. You can submit it in January or in February. Obviously, we need your your first semester grades to consider your application complete. But if it's done a week or two before the deadline, please feel free to submit it, and that will help us on our end actually. You'll just be considered on time, so you won't be prioritized over other on-time applicants, but it just helps us on our end, and you won't have to worry about kind of running to the post office on the deadline itself. And then sometimes this can be a really time-consuming process, is reaching out to tribal enrollment or Hawaiian enrollment office to get documentation. So I strongly suggest also doing that up front so that you're not worried about when is the Tribal Enrollment Office going to get back to me with my documentation. Well, if you reach out now, it's a good chance that you'll have those papers well ahead of time. And then lastly, help us understand who you are and where you come from. We're really interested in you as Native students. What was it like where you grew up? What do you like to do and learn about? And what are your family and other cultural commitments? Do you have any special responsibilities or at home or in your community? A lot of Native students forget how unique their community may be, or even if you know, they don't participate in a lot of extracurricular activities, they might actually help out a lot at home with either cultural responsibilities or even just watching siblings, babysitting. Those are the types of things that we want to hear about, as well as your extracurricular activities. Tips for teachers and counselors. This is really helpful when you're advising a student who is applying to our program. Please contextualize your school. We see so many different high schools, and it's good for us to understand how your school is a certain size or a certain rigor, or has certain resources or doesn't have certain resources. That helps us understand where the student is coming from. And then if you don't have a school profile, create one. That's a good thing to have on hand, of course. And we have on our resource page a good link to kind of some instructions on how to create that document. And then we have another suggestion, which is to have students take the Aspire or the PSAT in their 10th grade, or I think the Aspire might be in 9th grade, but that really helps them to prepare to take the official SAT or ACT. And then, of course, the SAT or ACT doesn't have to just be taken in senior year. 11th grade spring is a great time for that to happen as well, to prepare students. And then just providing more information than what's on the transcripts, and then including information that will help us understand where a student is going and what characteristics they have and qualities they have. These are some tips for parents. Please be sure to have, again, all your information as up-to-date and accurate as possible. The tax information that we require, I briefly mentioned it, but as part of our application process, we require 2016 or 2015 taxes. That's really so that we can help advise your student on what they will be expected to pay in college. It helps us understand the level of need that so that we can allocate financial aid and also advise the student. And then we also coach students about what that might mean for the next 4 years of their college education. The application fee and deposit breakdown is as follows. The application fee to apply to our program is $20. It's non-refundable. That really helps us with this whole process. The application deposit is $100. That is refundable if a student is not accepted or after being accepted chooses to withdraw. So that can be refunded for sure if circumstances make it so that the student isn't coming to our program. The deposit and fee can be submitted by sending one check with the application or a money order. And I did touch upon this. It mirrors the college application process. So the reason that we have parents submit tax info. Also, many parents have some misperceptions about financial aid. You don't have to be on welfare assistance, or you don't have to be a very low income family to qualify for financial aid, either for college or for our program too. So that helps us just have everyone provide their information, and that way we're not kind of missing families who might have qualified for financial aid. We're exposing parents to the financial aid process as well, so getting you used to having to provide the tax information and the info that you would need to fill out the FAFSA. As I mentioned, the EFC expected family contribution. That's good for parents to have that information. And then we don't keep any of the tax information. It's all returned to your family. Please redact any Social Security numbers that are on those tax forms as well. Make sure to black them out, and that way we don't have that information either. And then, of course, it helps us to get a sense of the family structure at home. Sometimes our students come from a diverse range of family situations. So some students' parents are married, some students' parents don't live together, and the student spends equal time with both parents. Some students live with other family members, grandma, grandpa, uncle, or auntie. So any of those situations we're going to want to know about, because that affects how you can pay for college and what you can afford in terms of our program as well. And then we also help students, based on their income information, their family's income information, to seek either merit-based need or need-based scholarships to apply to schools. Okay, so again, if this is about tax information for parents to submit. If parents and guardians are married, you can just submit joint tax returns. And if not, if your parents are not married, please have them submit individual tax forms if they file separately. Parents or guardians who are divorced or separated, submit both if possible. At very least, we need tax info from the parent with which the student resides for 51% of the time, or the custodial parent. So whoever the student spends more time with at home, that's who we definitely need tax information from. Otherwise, it's really helpful if we can get tax info from both, because that's what colleges are also going to be requiring of the student. And then if you as a student live with a relative, again, submit the tax info of that person who you live with. So if it's your relative or a family member that's not your parent, they can submit their tax info on behalf. Again, numbers don't say it all, so if you've got any extenuating circumstances, either you as a parent or you as a student can detail those in our application form, and that way we know and we're aware. After being admitted, what's next? So we really guide you through the whole process after you apply. We send out some detailed information and instructions where you can confirm your participation, you make your tuition payment, or accept your scholarship. And then you book airfare through our travel agent. And our travel agent books all airfare, which makes it very easy for us to have information from your itinerary and make sure that we have all the pieces in place to have ground transportation to meet you as soon as you arrive. And then we also send out some pre-programmed homework instructions. Usually we have students fill out and conduct a practice ACT or SAT test if they haven't already taken an official one. We request that you do a draft of the college essay, and then a couple of surveys where we get some important information from you about your school preferences, and then a draft of the Common App. So there's some stuff that's going to be required before the program, and that makes your time at the program a lot easier because we're not trying to do every single thing. And then parents and students will be provided a link to a website that basically gives you a detailed schedule of the week ahead and some other information that helps you prepare to the program. So that concludes the presentation portion of the webinar. That was a lot of information that I just threw at you, so I apologize in advance if it was fast. But that's kind of a snapshot of how what we do at the program. Please feel free to stay on. If you have to jump off, that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and go through a few of the questions, and it doesn't look like we have many. So the first question that I'm seeing here is, for American Indian students, Do they need to be enrolled tribal members, or may they be tribal descendants who are not enrolled themselves? That's a good question, and we actually do accept documentation that details a student as a descendant, but we need to receive that. That needs to come from the tribe. So if a student is a direct descendant of an enrolled member, they can reach out to their enrollment office and request a letter of descendancy status. Some tribal enrollment offices may be able to provide this, some may not. It really depends on the tribe itself. So if they're willing to provide that documentation for us on their letterhead and kind of signed by an official from the tribe, then we're able to accept that as enrollment documentation. That's for American Indian students, or Alaska Native, I believe. Native Hawaiian students, it's going to be different. So please submit Ho'olu Data Center or Kamehameha School data to us, documentation to us. Thank you for that question. When is the deadline? I see that, as I mentioned, I think it's, well, it is February 14th, 2017. That is the postmark deadline. And then when does CH start to advertise? So we usually start advertising our programs at the end of summer. We usually don't announce where our programs are being held until the fall time in a given year. So that's, and then we release our application usually in October, mid-October is when we start to inform students that we're looking for them to apply to our programs. And then, does CH offer any scholarships? And again, maybe this was asked before I got to that slide, but we do offer extensive scholarships for students to attend our program. We don't offer any scholarships, unfortunately, at this point, for alumni of our programs to attend college. We're only able right now to support students who come to our program either through tuition or airfare scholarships, which you can qualify for simply by applying to the program. So sadly, we get this question a lot. We don't currently offer college scholarships. I say currently because maybe down the road there will be a organization or a donor that might support us in that way to make it possible to provide college scholarships. But we aren't able to provide college scholarships at this point. What we do is help counsel students on where to find great scholarship resources, because there are just a huge number of resources out there for Native students and non-Native students, but Native students need to be aware of certain key organizations. And in fact, there's a good list of resources on our website. If you go to www.collegehorizons.org/resources, that is actually a good list of organizations and databases that we often are recommending to students at the program. So that's a good place to start. The next question, and the last question I see right now, is for financial assistance, is it based on low income status or poverty guidelines? No, it's actually not. It's based on kind of a sliding scale. So essentially, a student does not have to be low income or their family make under a certain amount of money to be considered for financial aid. So for instance, like if a family makes $30,000 a year or lower, that's not like if they make above $30,000, it's not a point where we're saying, oh, they don't qualify for financial aid assistance. In fact, a lot of families who make above that, well above that, can qualify, we usually allocate. So on the smaller end, we might allocate $100 or $50 towards tuition. On the large end, we might offer to pay a good chunk of tuition and most of the airfare, if not all the airfare. So it depends. And again, family circumstances are gonna be a big part of that. So if a family has 5 children at home and has a limited income in a state that is a high-cost state, we're going to be looking at those factors to be able to allocate some good financial aid to that way. the other thing is that students who are able to provide those details, where if they're living at because sometimes there's a lot of questions on our end. If you can be as clear as possible about the family's financial circumstances, that will really help us to provide the appropriate amount of financial aid. So definitely not based on low income status or poverty guidelines. We allocate financial aid above those. And that's all the questions I'm seeing. I did go over a little bit, but I really thank you for joining me on this webinar today. If you want to reach out to me afterwards, please feel free to email me at this address on this closing slide. Otherwise, I really appreciate you attending this webinar to get some more information. As always, more information is available on our website, and I'm going to go ahead and close out now. Thank you for joining us, and take care. Good luck. We're really hoping to see your students or you apply to our programs. Have a good night.